The potato originated in South America, more specifically in the Andes. Roughly 10,000 years ago, around the present-day border between Peru and Bolivia, some people began to domesticate this plant in order to consume its tuber, which grows underground and is high in calories due to its rich starch content. The cultivation of the potato gradually spreads throughout the Andes, and it is already being prepared in a variety of ways, whether baked, simmered, or mashed. In addition, the Andeans discover that by freezing potatoes for several nights in a row, then compressing them to extract the water, and finally drying them in the sun, it's possible to preserve them for several years and thus combat famine during poor harvests. In the 16th century, Spanish conquistadors arrive in the region and discover the potato, which is called papa in Quechua. Later, the name will evolve in Spanish to become patata, probably due to a confusion with the sweet potato grown by the Tainos in the Caribbean, which is called batata, or possibly to avoid offending the Pope, who is called papa in Spanish. Whatever the case, the plant is imported and cultivated in the Canary Islands, from where it spreads throughout the Spanish Empire. Early on, however, the European population is wary of this new plant, which resembles the toxic European black nightshade. As a result, potatoes are mainly used to feed animals, the hungry and the sick, notably in Seville's hospitals. In 1585, as war rages between Spain and England, navigator Francis Drake, at the head of a powerful fleet, ravages the Spanish colonies in America, including Cartagena de Indias, where he most likely seizes potatoes that he then brings back to England. Some of them are then imported to Ireland, where they're quickly cultivated on a large scale to feed the island's poor population. It's also possible that they were first imported to the island by Basque fishermen, who were used to stopping off there during their expeditions to the fish-rich waters of North America. In any case, fishermen and sailors are the first to adopt the potato, as it keeps well and is therefore very useful on long voyages. On the old continent, mainly botanists with a passion for exotic plants are taking interest in this new plant and propagate the potato by sending each other tubers. Botanist Carolus Clusius, during his stay in Frankfurt, cultivates the potato and sends numerous specimens to his colleagues throughout Europe. The potato becomes progressively more popular, especially in northern Italy, where it is called tartufoli, meaning little truffle. Farmers are now making room for them alongside their cereal crops, as they are easy to grow and, by growing underground, are less affected by theft and looting of passing armies. Another important advantage of the potato is that it can be eaten directly without any processing, unlike wheat, which has to be transformed into flour in mills before being used to prepare bread. Portugal, for its part, begins to cultivate potatoes in its colonies in India and even exports some as far as Macau, where they are most likely then introduced into China. Although it's also possible that they were imported north via the Silk Road. Whatever the case, the potato is quickly adopted and its cultivation spreads throughout the Qing Empire as the population grows rapidly. In Europe, King Frederick II of Prussia, later nicknamed the Potato King, undertakes major projects to develop agriculture on his lands in order to combat famines. He is one of the very first heads of state to encourage potato cultivation in particular. According to legend, he asked armed guards to protect a potato field during the day to draw peasants' attention to the plant, making it appear desirable. Then, during the night, he deliberately left his field unguarded so that people could steal his tubers and start growing them at home. At the same time, the 7 Years' War is tearing Europe apart. Frenchman Antoine Parmentier is taken prisoner by the Prussians and is fed almost exclusively on potatoes. He realizes the importance of the tuber and, after his release, begins to promote it in France, where it is still banned as it is mistakenly associated with the spread of leprosy. After several years of research, he convinces King Louis XVI to change the country's policy. Potato cultivation is now encouraged, and it quickly becomes very popular and is eaten in a variety of ways. In Paris, on the Pont Neuf, itinerant merchants come up with the idea of dipping potato sticks in boiling oil, inventing frites, or French fries, which quickly become popular in the French capital. But this invention is also claimed in Namur, Belgium, where, the story goes, one freezing winter a century earlier, the river had frozen over, and fishermen replaced the fried fish they were used to eating with pieces of fried potato. Whatever the truth, fries would ultimately become a national dish in Belgium. The potato, thanks to its low production costs, rich nutritional content, and superior shelf life, becomes a staple food in Europe, and even plays an important role in the Industrial Revolution, becoming the main foodstuff for workers. Production explodes across the continent, even reaching the remote lands of Russia, where the powers that be try to impose its cultivation, but face significant resistance from the peasantry. In the 1840s, late blight, a disease that attacks potatoes, spreads across northern Europe and ravages crops. Ireland, where 1/3 of arable land is devoted to potato cultivation, is hardest hit. Its 8 million inhabitants suffer a devastating famine that, in just a few years, is fatal for over 1 million inhabitants and drives another 2 other million to emigrate, mainly to the United Kingdom, North America, and Australia. Even today, the population of the island hasn't recovered to its level of 1840. Starting at the end of the 19th century, the potato is introduced to sub-Saharan Africa by European settlers, but its cultivation spreads mainly to high-altitude land. After World War II, mechanization and petrol development make it possible to cultivate larger areas with less manual labor. Potato production explodes worldwide, and in 1993, China becomes the world's biggest producer. The country now relies on potatoes to feed its population, the main advantage being that its cultivation requires 4 times less water than rice. Today, some 375 million tons of potatoes are grown worldwide every year. India is the second largest producer, while Ukraine has long been in third place, but war has recently caused production there to plummet. Finally, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations is counting on potatoes to ensure global food security and hopes to double production to 700 million tons by 2030.